a contract with somebody, but how is it going to help the regular homeowner?
So really what it's going to provide is another option for consumers to purchase telecommunication services. So obviously right now we have a number of different providers in Marathon, two most notably Bell and Shaw that provide services. What ultimately this is going to provide is another option for consumers, businesses and industry locally. And this is going to be true high-speed internet. So this is going to be a fiber solution. Traditionally, what we've had in Marathon are high-speed internet solutions, but not fiber solutions. So what this is going to generate for local individuals, and the municipality is currently working with T-Baytel on the rollout of those consumer services available. So there will be those coming to the public later in 2021, is to have a number of different options, not only as it relates to high-speed internet, i.e. computer or tablet use, but also other phone uses, other television opportunities and programs, other options with respect to just about any telecommunications service that's available right now in any type of technology function. So really what this does is it really broadens the, I'll say the depth of services available to Marathon residents once the install is completed.
Anybody else? Councillor Lake?
It's hard to believe that I'm not hip with the internet jive, but is this what, like you see commercials during the Super Bowl for 5G networks? Is this what they call 5G, that sort of instantaneous high-speed internet, or is this some other named service that differs from that?
So I won't go as far to say it's 5G, because there's a number of different factors that are required to make it 5G. But what it's going to have is a fiber backbone. So the fiber backbone is the important piece to getting to 5G. So without that fiber backbone, you can't have that real-time internet solution. So this moves us that much closer to having that within Marathon. One of the challenges we always have in our communities is geography. So the length of fiber rollout. So obviously, the further you get from the core, the slower the service. But this will be the first real fiber option that's available to municipal consumers in Marathon.
Councillor Debuchy?
The rollout of the initial fiber that rolled basically along the highway line is available in Marathon, but from my understanding, it's only available to the Board of Education and Hospital at this time. Is or has Bell ever decided to expand that service, or are we going to have competing fiber optics options in the future also?
We've never been contacted by Bell in my time to look at any rollout of fiber availability that Bell has in or near Marathon. This is the first fiber option that we've pursued with any company, given the fact that it's very costly to roll out fiber. And obviously, this wouldn't have been possible for our local consumers if we wouldn't have gotten the Ontario government grant. So this is the first option where we've actually had a cost-consumable fiber option for the residents.
Councillor Lake, do you have another question?
I do, actually.
Okay.
And maybe it's two, and I'm just trying to remember stuff. One is, I recall when the mill closed down, we had a fellow come and talk to us about a server farm because, you've got that great cooling effect of Lake Superior. Is this, and he talked at the time that the problem was the bottleneck of information in and out. I don't know, and maybe just with the new EDO, is this a pathway to pursuing that further? Would it allow that? And then two, the other thing you see a lot of are folks that have decided, maybe the city is not the safest place to be. You create a community in which people can work from home. Is this one of those things that will be easier to sell to give those sort of professionals working at home, again, a way to create that fertile place for them to live? So, sorry, that's two questions, not one.
So question one, it's a good question, and I would have to go back to T-Baytel and speak to their technical services team. I'm certainly not an expert in fiber networks, so I don't know what availability there would be for, that type of large operation. When we're talking, server farms and deep water cooling and things like that, it requires a tremendous amount of bandwidth. So I'd have to ask that question. But question number two, certainly, this project and the thought process was, of the project coming together with the partners was predicated on having fiber access, which opens up a whole host of opportunities, not just with respect to the number of devices you could utilize, but with the number of options that are going to be available in real time. So, things such as conducting business, operating, education requirements, online learning. It increases those abilities. Healthcare, the ability to develop or to deliver healthcare virtually to residents. It provides those options and opens those doors. So certainly with this service, those are all going to be enhanced once the rollout occurs.
Councillor Valens?
Yeah, Councillor Lake made a good point of addressing how the residential community will be able to tap into this service and access it. We know it will do a good job of attracting business to the community and potentially looking at getting us opportunities with different sectors. What kind of opportunity will our current business sector have in order to tap into this opportunity as well as the residents?
So no different. Anybody within the geographic service area, which is really going to be the town of Marathon proper, will have the same opportunity to purchase the services, through T-Baytel. We're working with T-Baytel right now in their engineering group on the rollout of the fiber services in Marathon. And in parallel with that, we're also working with their sales team on how we're going to get the sales message out to the community and educate the community. So just need a little bit of patience. Those are both happening concurrently right now. And we expect that likely over the course of the next 4 to 6 months, there'll be a number of public information pieces that are produced through T-Baytel that will educate the residents on how do you sign up? What does that mean if you sign up? When does that need to happen? And then on the sales side, what services can I buy and, what types of devices do I need? Those types of things. So just a little bit of patience. Those are all in the works and they'll be coming to Marathon over the next 4 to 6 months.
Councillor Lake?
Thank you, Your Worship. This will be my last one. So it sounds fantastic. I mean, I think, like you said, more choice is good, more competition, enhanced services all sounds great. The thing that I think we try to do is also kind of find those partnership opportunities with our neighbors. I know financially it may not work, but maybe there's some other funding. Could we at least inform Beatagon that we're moving forward with this project and potentially see if T-Baytel and them have an interest? Because certainly, if we're going to get that enhanced service, it would be nice if our neighbors could as well.
Yeah, this has certainly been an item that's been one of our standing agenda items in our joint council to council meetings. More so in the past, it was that we've applied for funding. Hopefully we're successful and we get it. And obviously at our upcoming meeting in March, we'll be able to inform that we do have the dollars in place and we can certainly facilitate those connections, if Beatagon desires between T-Baytel and themselves to see how they can also take advantage of these nearby fiber opportunities that previously haven't existed at an affordable level in small communities like Marathon.
Thank you.
It's like I don't see any more hands. I got a couple quick questions. So just for the public that are listening, the fiber is going to be delivered by either pole or by ground, Mr. Skorczynski?
That's correct. That's the engineering that's taking place right now. And it's really, we're working very closely with T-Baytel based on our local experience. We know we do have areas within the community where it's drilling is challenging based on the cobble makeup of the underground. So it'll be a combination of both. And in most cases, we're trying to avoid the installation of new infrastructure and utilize existing infrastructure with institutions like Hydro One Networks. So that's some of the time that it's taking is to get those approvals in place to utilize their existing infrastructure to go above ground.
And you made a very clear point at the beginning of the report about somewhere within the agreement that could be members in our community that are further away from the key point of distribution. They might not be hooked up. That's a fact. I mean, we're not a real rural community, but we do have areas within our community that might not see this fiber optic hooked to their business or their home, correct?
Yeah, that's, you know, the example I'll use to kind of draw a comparator to the question is, you know, obviously some of our commercial sector on Highway 17 isn't serviced by water and sewer provided by the town of Marathon. This may be an example where, you know, there may not be a direct fiber option, but there may be an alternative option, you know, that's available just because of the distance of the geography. So I think it's a little premature for me to make comment that, you know, what is and what isn't as we're going through the engineering. But I've made note that I'll certainly reach out to TBATEL and ensure that that's on the radar for discussion purposes. But you know, it's a valid question, and you're correct that you know, just because we have the service in Marathon, it doesn't mean that it's always, you know, even economical, you know, 2 to 5 kilometers away.
Right. Just wanted to highlight that. Councillor Debussy.
Yeah, you were talking about the rollout and whatnot. How does this coincide with the rollout of liquefied natural gas? Because the option for liquefied natural gas is obviously underground, and we know that the challenge of lateral drilling with a cobble in town, my backyard being an example. Have we thought about or getting the two entities together? Because if they're going to drill lateral drilling to throughout the community, would this not be a shared benefit for both of them to share on that drilling expertise?
Excellent question. I wish I could say with certainty that we had the funding in place for natural gas coming, but unfortunately we don't at this time. We're still likely, you know, the better part of 11 to 12 months before we get the approvals for that project, you know, with the Ontario Energy Board. So, you know, the short answer is no. We can't co-pair the two right now. But the way we are looking at this and why we're so involved in the outlaying of the infrastructure is, you know, just the same as we'll do with natural gas. We want to use existing corridors as much as we possibly can. So if there's a corridor that contains the fiber, you know, we would propose that, you know, as we roll out natural gas infrastructure, it would be laid in those same corridors. So it's an engineering technical piece that isn't necessarily overly complicated, but you have to understand the industry. But those are top of mind thoughts that we shared with the providers, and we'll do so as we move forward.
Okay, Councillor Debussy, follow up.
Yeah, follow up on that then. Is that why I guess our GIS or that universal tracking that we have mapped out in town, is that going to be a benefit that we have it so that our existing lines will be tracked and they can either run parallel to it and or piggyback on the information that was gathered while they were doing their process, the original process, whoever comes first?
That's correct. So we share, so as an example, we've given TBATEL access to our geographic information system, which is is GIS. It currently has all the existing services outlaid within Marathon, so they're aware of them. So they can generally follow them as best they can. So the minimal disruption to infrastructure. Obviously, once the fiber is installed, it'll be added as a layer to our GIS system that it could then be utilized when we run the natural gas lines locally. And similarly, once we do that, and hopefully we can with some funding approvals, it'll also be added as another layer to our GIS. So yes, if we think back to our project, 2008, I think is when we implemented the GIS system. It's highly beneficial in these types of projects.
Okay, no more hands. I think this is a good thing for our community, a good thing for our business community as well. So it's a win-win for Marathon and Terrace Bay, and I thank administration, especially Mr. Skroczynski, for all the hard work behind the scenes that's been taking place, because these things come to us as a report, but we all know that this has been ongoing for quite a long time, working with TBATEL and the government and finally getting the funding to make this project a reality. So thanks for that. And with the mover and seconders permission, I'll call a question. All in favor? Full hands. Thank you very much. I will now mark 5 on the motions because we weren't you weren't on the first couple, Councillor Valens. Okay, up next we have the of course our drinking water compliance report. Mr. Hishka.
Good afternoon, Mayor Dumas, members of council. I'm presenting the 2020 DWQMS compliance report. So the DWQMS, which stands for Drinking Water Quality Management System, requires several mandatory audits and reviews to be undertaken annually and communicated to the owner of the system. In this case, that's council. The following documents are submitted to council for information purposes. The DWQMS Management Review of 2020, the minutes of the meeting were held on July 15th. DWQMS Infrastructure Review 2020, minutes of the meeting held September 30th, and the results of the DWQMS internal audit. Following are the highlights from the information submitted. Management Review 2020. The review is intended to evaluate continuing suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of the Town of Marathon DWQMS and distribution system. The DWQMS Management Review Committee concluded that, based on the information presented, the Marathon Operations Plan facilitates our ability to consistently deliver drinking water that meets applicable regulatory requirements and enhances consumer protection. Mayor Dumas and Councillor Valance represented the council on the committee. The Infrastructure Review 2020. Maintenance programs were discussed and our current high level of preventative maintenance will be continued. 2021 draft budget requests were analyzed for their relevance to this review, and all planned maintenance will be accounted for at the current budget level. All action items from the meeting have since been completed as scheduled. An internal audit was completed June 3rd and 9th, 2020, and no corrective actions were required. An external verification audit was conducted January 8th, 2021, but is still considered the 2020 external full scope desktop audit. Auditor Bob Howarth commented, "This is a very well developed, implemented, and utilized quality management system, meeting all the requirements of the DWQMS standard and incorporating all the required upgrades. The cycles of audits and reviews will continue as scheduled in 2021. Full scope accreditation was originally achieved on October 1 of 2013 and will be renewed based on this comprehensive verification audit. The current QMS certification will remain valid until October 4th of 2021. Budget recommendations to council are based on best practice for improvements and repair. And the recommendation, your administration is presenting the 2020 DWQMS compliance report for information purposes only." Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the report. Do I have any questions of that annual report in regards to our drinking water quality? Councillor Lake.
Thanks, Your Worship. Brian, I think that it's such a great job that the water folks do. We're lucky, in lots of things that we have in terms of like our geography. I do wonder, with the new Vallard camp on site, are we noticing a big change in the usage of water or our ability to handle water safely? I mean, I know it's the camp's been in and out, but I just wondered if that was a big driver of water. And then also we've had lots of power outages in the last 6 to 8 months. Just wondering if we see that as an ongoing problem and how we're sort of dealing with that.
Thanks for the question. So with regard to Vallard, the usage did go up significantly, but our system is very much capable of handling it. We're operating at most times 30 to 40% capacity. But in 2020, we discovered some major leaks, which brought us back to pre-1985 levels. So it's literally like Vallard isn't even on the radar now after we repaired those leaks. As for power outages, the town did experience a few up in the heights at the reservoir, which affected pressures for the heights. So we'd had localized boil water advisories, which were cleared up as fast as the labs could get the results back. That's a regulatory thing. It's not like there was water quality issues. It's once pressure drops to a certain level, you have to issue a boil water no matter what. So it's we're a victim of the rules there. We've since fixed that problem, and we are hoping we don't have that issue anymore. Well, in the last major outage that we had, I think it was 2 Sundays ago, that generator came on perfectly fine, and we had another failure in a different battery backup. So that one's since been replaced. We've had no issues with regulatory requirements, and there's been no issue with water quality going out to consumers.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Debussy.
I think you answered my question through the process about the power failures, but my understanding was we had purchased the backup, backup generators for those locations. was there a failure, or was it dated, or were we not testing them, or is there a lag time that resulted in the loss of pressure?
So the problem up at the Heights was two things. First, it was a software issue, and then it was a battery, so an interface issue. And we had a contractor come in and implement the new system for us. They forgot one major component, which we were then rescued by our local journeyman electrician in town, who discovered a problem. So we've got that back online, and hopefully that's the last time we see that. In a lot of cases, the battery backup, so the generator that we installed at the sewage treatment plant, that didn't come on because of a software issue, which the manufacturer has since corrected as quickly as possible. But the small battery backups are backing up the level loggers so that no information is lost. And we were able to submit all the proper paperwork to the ministry.
Okay, anybody else? No other hands? Thanks for the report, and look forward to continued great water in our community. Up next, we have the bylaw being the bylaw to authorize the Corporation of Town of Marathon to enter into an agreement with T-Bay-Tel for telecommunication services to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 8th day of February 2021. Need a mover or seconder for that bylaw.
Councillor Valens.
Councillor Valens, second.
Councillor Shingra.
Thank you. Any questions, comments on that bylaw? Hearing none, I call a question. All in favor? Full hands. Thank you very much. Up next, we have some new businesses items that in regards to resolutions sent to us. The first one is the council hereby supports the attached resolution received from the town of Bracebridge pertaining to the infrastructure funding, and further, a copy of the motion be forwarded on to the individuals listed on the originating resolution. Everybody's had an opportunity to look at this, and I'll just read that therefore whereases that the federal and provincial governments provide immediate, broad, substantial municipal funding opportunities for well-planned, shovel-ready projects already prioritized under the municipal asset management plans to provide immediate stimulus to local, provincial, and federal economics within the communities in order to rebound from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. As we all know, we got shovel-ready projects, and if there was funding models there, we'd be going. And I think they would really stimulate the economy once the vaccines are in the majority of our arms. So I need a mover and seconder.
I'll move. Councillor Valens.
Thank you.
Councillor Tabucci.
Okay. Any questions, comments on that resolution? Councillor Lake.
It was interesting to read the paragraph right above it, because it could have been written by Marathon, where it says they were recently denied any funding under the culture and recreation stream. I mean, right. That's exactly where we are, right? It was a great project that administration put a ton of time into. There was lots of public consultation. There was broad agreement. It was good for the community. It reminds me that there are certainly some communities, Bracebridge is bigger than we are, but it's a pretty competitive field. But I think we need to support it. I just, it's so funny. It just felt like something that Mr. Skorczynski could have written on our behalf as well.
Certainly. Any other hands? Seeing none. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Full hands. Thank you very much. Carried. Okay, up next we have a council resolution supporting the attached resolution received from Rainy River District Municipal Association pertaining to the tax rate for railway rights-of-way per ton mile concept. And further, a copy of the motion be forwarded on to the individuals listed on the originating resolution. Mover and a seconder for that.
Councillor Gingras.
Councillor Lake.
Okay, I got Councillor Gingras. Thank you. And Councillor Tabucci. And as you know, this motion has been through the government a few times through NOMA. We just discussed it at our last NOMA meeting, as well as I brought a report to you from Roma. It's been kind of put on the back burner right now because the government's not looking at no new taxes, basically because of the COVID-19. I fully support this, and I believe we all do. The reality is we want this to be per ton rather than per kilometer. We're a little bit luckier. We have a lot more kilometers going through our community than others. But the reality is this is still being pushed by Rainy River because it affects the Fort Frances community, and they realize how important it is. So I think NOMA and Roma and AMO are all fully aware, as well as the government, but we'll continue to support it. I think is a great item to move forward to bring to the attention again of the importance of Northwestern Ontario. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Carried, full hands. Thank you very much. Up next, we have a resolution supports the attached resolution received from the Township of North Glengarry pertaining to the opening of small businesses. And further, a copy of this motion be forwarded on to the individual listed on the originating resolution. Mover and seconder?
Councillor Lake.
Councillor Valence.
Okay, thank you. Any comments on this one? As we noticed today, the announcement from the provincial government, we are still going to be somewhat locked down till at least the next week rollout, and then maybe the southern part of the province 2 weeks out. Some areas in the north, so I guess eastern part of our province are going to be opening this week because they have low counts. So I think by the time this gets out, we will still, I feel we support it, but we are working towards opening. Councillor Debussy first.
Yeah, we just got an announcement from AMO, and then our CAO also forwarded us the announcement that came forward from the provincial government. Through all the, I guess, bureaucratic muffle, what it basically does it mean for the Thunder Bay District and Marathon in particular? I mean, it was hard to read, and when I went to try to navigate their site, it never came out and said, Northern Ontario, you're still in lockdown, or you're still in green, or whatever it may be. So if you can inform the public what we're talking about, at least from the last announcement, and then also the gist I got of it is they're not planning to do anything or review it again until after the Family Day weekend. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I'll let Mr. Skroczynski respond to that. We had discussion this morning at our emergency control group, anticipating the opening, but with the announcement, it's pretty clear that we're not going to be part of that. Mr. Skroczynski wants to highlight that.
Yeah, it's been a bit difficult to decipher, given that we've only had literally 2 hours to look at it. But in that time, we have reached out to the Thunder Bay District Health Unit to ask some questions around the language. When I read through it a little bit deeper this afternoon, what it sounds like the province is going to do is they're going to put every health unit into its own order. So rather than have blanket orders, with the exception of the 3 that were announced going back into green this week, the rest are going to remain in gray, which is the lockdown area. And then on February the 16th, or before that, which may be Friday, each individual health unit is going to go into a different color-coded system and have their own orders in effect. But I do, put a cursor on that, saying, I've only had literally an hour to look at that, and we'll complete some further due diligence with respect to that, because we're also a little bit, confused by, some of the language which says that some businesses will be able to open in the gray lockdown order, given certain protocols in place, and it's a bit confusing. So we'll have more information for the public this week. The emergency control group will meet again this week once we've had a chance to get answers to those questions. So we are on top of it, and please stay tuned for more information later on this week.
So thank you for that, and I guess that's the best clarity we can give to the public in regards to that news release today. Anybody else? Any comments? Questions? Okay, well, obviously, I feel we must support this motion going forward. So I'll call the question. All in favor? All good. Thank you. Carried. Just whether or not I'll get there anywhere before things open back up, but the understanding is there that we feel is very important. I have a resolution here. The council hereby supports the attached resolution received from the Township of Aspen Noble Northwood pertaining to the CSWB plan extension. And further, the copy of this motion be forwarded to the individual listed on the originating resolution. I need a mover and a seconder to put it on the floor.
Move. Councillor Lake.
Councillor Valence.
Councillor Lake and Councillor Valence. Questions, comments? No hands? Oh, Councillor Lake.
Yeah, so I know that we have, I mean, they're talking about the community safety and well-being plan.
Yep.
We write lots of plans. I don't recall seeing one under that title.
Right.
So I'm a little confused as to what plan they're actually talking about, because I don't remember us doing this.
Sure. So the Attorney General has required all municipalities in Ontario to come up with a community safety plan, and we have been working on it behind the scenes. She's given the extension deadline till the July, I believe, of this year. We've asked through the EMO or so through the Roma conference through NOMA for extension, and she denied the extension as we speak. But I think there's been more and more pressure put on her because of the COVID and the availability of staff to write these plans. And these plans are basically putting all your agencies within your municipality together on an actual plan, so that when individuals are looking for help and to reach out to anybody or what do they do, it's all spelled out from the municipal level through the police services boards to the individuals that are requiring assistance and help. So it's basically putting everything, all the information together and showing the public you have a plan for the community safety and well-being in your community. Councillor Debuchy?
Is this just redoing our emergency plan? I mean, we have the meetings that we have every year. We, you know, we have all that information, who's the spokesperson, all this, you know, everything to go along with it. I mean, we developed a plan, I guess, for COVID issues here. I mean, which kind of piggybacked, I guess, on the same issues, adding more layers, I guess, because it was a health issue. You know, we planned for Y2K and, you know, and we planned for bird flu and all these things. At what point do we, you know, just say our emergency measures plan is good enough? I don't know.
So I can let Mrs. Korchinski highlight a bit more on that if you'd like, but I think the idea is as community safety and well-being is about the safety of your community. So that would be part of it, obviously, in emergency preparedness, but also the well-being of your residents and the health and welfare of those individuals in our community. So it's a combined, bringing all the information together under one plan. I've seen some community safety plans that are already done. Kenora and Thunder Bay have both completed theirs. One is really huge and one is very minimalized. So I think what the idea is to look at what's the best practice for all of us in the province, to look at a straightforward business model type plan saying, here's what we do, here's the service providers, here's how we've looked after our community, and here's what we're going to do in situations where you might be threatened, whether it's through nature, pandemics, or individuals who feel they don't have the availability of services. I don't know if Mr. Skoczynski wants to highlight anything else on that.
Well, to answer the question directly, no, this is a different plan. So our community emergency management plan is a plan that we're required to keep modernized and undertake a test of it on a yearly basis and submit that to the province for approval. This is a new plan that's been mandated by the province. Administratively, a little bit frustrating. We've taken that message forward previously in some of our delegations because what municipalities are being tasked to do is really pull together a lot of services that are either provincial or federal responsibilities and that don't fall under the management of the local municipality. Yet the province is telling municipalities, you have to coordinate this. So one of the arguments that we've brought forward in the past is we have a very functional situational table in Marathon that's operated through a number of local agencies to deal with the types of issues that the plan asked for. You know, why could we not consider, you know, utilizing that going forward? And the short answer we got was no, you have to have a plan. So what administration is doing now is working on that plan. We do have a committee in place internally to start to put the terms of reference together. We'll extend it further out into the community for 2021 and build that plan. You know, I would say it will be functional. It won't be overly exhaustive, but I think to get it done in a time frame that they're asking for is very tight, considering that you actually can't have any physical face-to-face meetings. So I think that's some of the frustration. So I know we're a little bit frustrated with this process as well. So an extension would be helpful for administration to put it together.
Certainly, and you identified going back to the hubs and to situation tables. This was discussed 3 or 4 years ago at the Police Services AGM, and that's where the ministry got the idea that they need to have safety plans within communities to identify those situation table. Marathon works very well. All the key players in regards to that are there. Victim Services was one of the ones that we were working with to try to coordinate this plan. That's a perfect agency. So that's what we need to do, but it's about the timelines because of COVID. If COVID wasn't here, the timeline that was presented originally was still tight. We could have asked for that extension, but with even COVID now, it's even tighter to get this together. So pretty straightforward. All in favor? Anybody got anything else that they want to question or comment? No? All in favor of this motion? Full hands. Thank you very much. Up next, I got a motion here. Council hereby supports the attached resolution received from the Township of Sioux Narrows, Nestor Falls, pertaining to the pandemic small business support, and further copy to the motion before to individual listed on the originating resolution. Moved by
Councillor Lake.
Councillor Valens.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lake moves. Councillor Valens second. Any comments on this motion resolution to be forwarded on? It's very small print, the first page, if you can all see, and then the second page is more whereas. Basically, it's just no different than we did with the support recovery for our small business. We did it directly in our municipality. They're asking for that. I encouraged through NOMA as well as through the Thunder Bay District Municipality to all the municipalities to do something like we did, and if they could afford it. And with the pandemic funding that everybody received from the provincial government, everybody could have did some sort of reimbursement, evaluation, compensation, support for their local business community. So I'm surprised they didn't. But anyway, this is just another motion asking for provincial government support and to go ahead and utilize some extra monies to help, keep in business and continue to go forward with it. Any other comments? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, I got the motion for adjournment, but prior to that, we have in camera, going into in camera with the discussions around the proposed pending acquisition, disposition of land by the municipality local board, as well as position plan, procedure, and criteria instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on in 04 in section 10, schedule 126. Anything else before we go adjourn the meeting? Just wanted to reassure individuals to get out there to enjoy our great outdoors. The municipality opened up the boat launch last week and plowing it now, so people have more access to other areas in town to get out and enjoy the outdoors with the pandemic. Penn Lake is a great skating loop within the community, and the outdoor rink is really solid. And the trails are great within the community as well. They're a little bit of snow, but packed down. Now snowshoers been out, and the trails are really good. So get out with this cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, and all the other available trails within the community. So with all that being said, we're going to adjourn at the hour of 4:46 p.m. Moved by
Councillor Valens.
Thank you.
Councillor Tabucci.
Thank you very much. Have a very good night. And are we going to sign off and sign back in?
No, so council, please just mute your microphones and stay on Microsoft Teams. We'll close off to the public as well as the senior leadership team, and we'll reconvene in about 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jamie.